Congress is in recess next week for the holidays. Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin is out front tonight. He is a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Thanks very much, Congressman, for taking the time.
Delighted to be with you.
I'll ask you directly here. Do you share Senator Warner's concerns that the president might sneakily fire the special counsel during the holidays?
Well, absolutely. You know, Mr. Mueller was director of the FBI. He was U.S. attorney in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and California. A very popular and widely heralded law enforcement official who is a registered Republican, was appointed by another Republican, Mr. Rosenstein, who is also a career DOJ official, a U.S. attorney appointed by President Bush, and he was appointed by Attorney General Sessions. So you have a series of Republican prosecutors, and now there's this smear campaign against Mueller and his investigation. Why? Well, it's obviously because of the Flynn guilty plea and the Papadopoulos guilty plea and the Manafort indictment and so on. They're doing their job, and suddenly there's this huge campaign to try to discredit and undermine them. And the speculation is rife here on Capitol Hill that there are people within the White House who are moving to try to get rid of him. Now, under statute, it would require an action of the Attorney General, and the special counsel can be removed only for misconduct, dereliction of duty, conflict of interest, or incapacity. So you'd have to show that there's some real good reason to get rid of him.
And
we need to take a stand.
We heard the Deputy Attorney General say last week he saw no cause to fire him. Warner went on to say that firing Mueller could provoke a constitutional crisis. You hear that often from Democratic lawmakers. What does that really mean?
Well, I mean, I think what we call a constitutional crisis is really a political crisis that implicates some of the extraordinary measures of the Constitution. And I do think that a lot of members have been on the verge of pushing for impeachment in the House of Representatives. I think that if the president engineered a series of moves to remove Mr. Mueller and destroy the special counsel investigation, that you would see a stampede towards impeachment. And so the crisis is really a political crisis that provokes a constitutional remedy.
You're saying if the president fired Bob Mueller, you would push for impeachment, and many of your colleagues would push for impeachment?
Well, I think it would be a clearly impeachable offense because it would constitute obstruction of justice, the same kind of obstruction of justice that we saw when he fired FBI Director Comey after Comey refused to drop the investigation into National Security Advisor Flynn and refused to essentially take a personal loyalty oath to President Trump. So, you know, the evidence of obstruction of justice, deliberate interference with this investigation is mounting, and I think that would clearly be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Let me ask you this. I imagine you have a lot of private conversations with your Republican colleagues, both on the Judiciary Committee, but elsewhere on the Hill. Do any Republican colleagues say to you in private that they're concerned and that they would be outraged if the president were to fire the special counsel?
Well, unfortunately, I heard more of that, you know, back in the summer and the spring, where people were saying, well, look, you know, if he did something really extreme, like try to fire the special counsel, then we could see taking a stand there. And we saw a lot more effort by the Republicans to tell the president, don't do that. Now the goalposts have moved. You know, we've got colleagues like Trent Franks, who resigned from Congress because of his Handmaid's Tale scandal in his office, but he took the position that the president should fire Mr. Mueller. He openly said it. So did Mr. Gates from Florida. He's egging the president on, urging him to fire the special counsel. So we're alarmed that so many of the Republicans appear to be in this kind of attack mode and smear campaign against the special counsel. And what they're doing is they're throwing all kinds of spaghetti up against the wall. So first it was the text. They found some texts from an FBI agent who'd been removed from the investigation by Mueller back in the summer, but they dig these texts out, they leak them under the most suspect and mysterious circumstances, and then try to create some sort of mythical bias in the whole investigation. Then they moved on to some emails that they said were illegally obtained. That was ridiculous. And so every day they're coming out with a new attack on the special counsel and the FBI.
Well, you mentioned those emails. Your committee holding a closed-door interview with the FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. Tomorrow, House Intel Committee, of course, did the same earlier this week. It was 8 hours long. What more are you hoping to learn from him during that testimony?
Well, this closed-door hearing that will be in tomorrow was called not by the Democrats on the committee. As far as I know, we weren't consulted at all. The letter that I saw was coming from the chairman, the Republican chairs of the Oversight and Judiciary Committees. So, you know, this to me also looks like it's part of this bizarre and orchestrated campaign to discredit and undermine anybody who's got anything to do with the investigation and the FBI. And apparently the attack on McCabe is that he is married to a woman who is an active Democratic politician in Virginia. Big deal. There are lots of people in the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office and DOJ who are married to people who are involved in politics, and there's no rule against that.
Indeed, there are a lot of mixed party marriages in D.C. Congressman Raskin, thanks very much for taking the